Hello everyone, this is Viresh from Department of Mechanical Engineering, New Horizon College of Engineering. In this video, I will explain the first module of the finite element method, that is Introduction to Finite Element Method. The finite element method is a numerical analysis technique. Basically, it is a numerical analysis technique used by engineers, scientists and mathematicians to obtain solutions. Either it may be approximate or exact solution to the differential equations or partial differential equations that describe or approximately describe a wide variety of physical and non-physical problems. And in physical problems include the range in diversity from solid, fluid and soil mechanics to the magnetism or dynamics. Okay, and this finite element method, it is a numerical techniques. If you consider any type of complex problems in the engineering field, we can easily, using this technique, we can easily solve any type of complex problems within very short span of time. And the next topic is basic steps in finite element method. There are total 10 basic steps in the finite element method to solve any type of complex engineering problems. The very first step in the finite element method is discretization of the continuum. It is nothing but, it is a first method in the FEM, is to divide the given continuum into smaller regions of finite dimensions called finite elements. The original continuum or body or structure is then considered as an assemblage of these elements after dividing into small region. Okay, each region is called as small elements. These small elements are assemblage of these elements connected at a finite number of joints called as node or nodal points. At each node, unknown displacements are to be prescribed. The type, size, number and arrangement of the elements depend on the accuracy of the solution is required. So if you want to solve complex problems with accurate results, okay, first we have to divide the whole geometry, complex geometry, into small elements, finite elements. Then if you divide into small number of elements, okay, we will get accuracy of the solution what we are obtaining is very high. And the second step is selection of approximate functions. Approximate functions are known as displacement function or interpolation model. The displacement function is starting point of mathematical analysis. This represents the variation of displacement within the element. The displacement function may be approximated in the form of linear function or higher order function. And the third step is formation of element stiffness matrix. After continuum is discretized with the desired element shapes, the individual element stiffness matrix is formulated. Basically, it is a minimization procedure. Whatever may be the approach adopted, the geometry of the element is defined in reference to global frame. Coordinate transformation must be done for elements where it is necessary. Formation of overall stiffness matrix. After element stiffness matrices in global coordinates are formed, their assemblage to form overall stiffness matrix. The assembly is done through the nodes which are common to adjacent elements. The overall stiffness matrix is symmetry and banded. The overall stiffness matrix is also known as global stiffness matrix. Next step is formation of element loading matrix. The loading forms an essential parameter in any structural engineering problems. The loading inside the element is transferred at the nodal points and the consistent element matrix is formed. So after the overall stiffness matrix is formulated for the complex divided the geometry of the problem, you have to formulate the load vector for that particular divided complex geometry of the problem. That is fifth step. And next step is sixth step is formation of overall loading matrix. Like the overall stiffness matrix, the element loading matrices are assembled to form overall loading matrix. This matrix is one column per loading case, and it is either a column vector or rectangular matrix depending on the number of loading cases. Next, seventh step is formation of overall equilibrium equation. The overall equilibrium equation is systematic arrangement of overall stiffness matrix, overall load vector and overall displacement vector to get set of simultaneous equations. The overall equilibrium equation can be expressed for the complex problem, that is KQ equal to F. It is a product of global stiffness matrix and global displacement vector is equal to global force vector. Okay, where K is the overall or global stiffness matrix. Okay, always the stiffness matrix is always a square matrix, and the Q is the overall or global displacement vector, it is always in column matrix, and F is overall or global force vector, it is always in column matrix. Okay, and next eighth step is incorporation of boundary conditions. Here to apply boundary condition for the complex divided the problem. Here to apply the boundary condition, if any in the problem, if any force is not acting or it is fixed, we can take it as that boundary condition as 0. The boundary restraint conditions are to be imposed in the stiffness matrix to avoid the condition of singularity. The solution cannot be obtained unless the support condition are included in the stiffness matrix. This is because if all the nodes of the structure are included in the displacement vector, the stiffness matrix becomes singular and cannot be solved if the structure is not supported. Next, ninth step is calculation of unknown nodal displacements. See, once if the after applying the boundary condition for the complex problem, engineering problem, okay, next step is go for we have to calculate the nodal displacement at each and every nodal points. So after incorporation of boundary conditions, elimination method or penalty methods, there are two methods are used for find out the nodal displacements. First one is elimination method, second one is penalty method of handling boundary condition, are used to calculate unknown nodal displacements from the equilibrium equation or simultaneous equation. See, once after applying the boundary condition, we are getting simultaneous equations. After solving those simultaneous equations, finally we will get the nodal displacement of the complex divided engineering problem. And the last step in the finite element method is calculation of strain and stresses. See, to find out the stress and strain at each and every nodal displacements are utilized for the calculation of strain and stress using suitable equations. This may be done for all elements of the continuum, or it may be limited to some predetermined elements. Result may also be obtained by graphical means. It may decide to plot the contours of the deformed shape of a continuum. It is very important, because say if you consider any steel bridges or any type of complex geometry of the structure, okay, after application of the load, with the help of this finite element method or FEA method, we can easily find out how much of stress and strain is developed at each and every point due to the application of the load at each and every point. Application of finite element method. See, there are in the engineering there are variety of applications from this finite element method, and the specific application of finite element method can be classified into three major categories. The very first one is equilibrium or steady state or time independent problems. Second type of application is eigenvalue problems. Third one is propagation of transient problems. See, these are the three important specific application of finite element method. If you come to the point of in general, application of finite element method can be classified into two types. The very first one is structural problems. Example, if you consider any bars or truss or any type of frame structure, if you want to analyze the any type of bars or truss type of structures, okay, this finite element play a very important role, very important application. The very first application under structural problem is stress analysis, including bars, truss, frame analysis, any type of frame. Okay, second application is stress concentration problems, typically associated with geometric discontinuity with holes, fillets or other changes in the geometry of the body. So if you consider any rectangular plate with hole, when it is subjected to tensile load or compression load, how exactly at wherever the fillets or notches will be there or around the hole, there is a maximum stress will be developed. We can easily analyze such a type of stresses with the help of this finite element method. And the third application under structural problem is buckling analysis. The buckling analysis is nothing but, for example, connecting rod in the IC engine subjected to axial compression. And the fourth type is vibration analysis. Example, a beam subjected to different type of loading, either it may be transverse or longitudinal type of loadings. If you want to analyze the vibration analysis of any beam under different condition of loading condition, these are all four applications under structural analysis in the FEM. And the next one is non-structural problem applications, heat transfer analysis. Especially if you consider any rod when it is subjected to heating, okay, how exactly the heat will be flows from one end to other end. Example, steady state thermal analysis on composite cylinder, that is called as heat transfer analysis. Nowadays in the industry, that is CFD analysis, what we are calling. Next, second type is fluid flow analysis. Especially the very important application nowadays, CFD is very important application in the field of engineering. And fluid flow analysis, example, fluid flow through any type of pipe, circular pipes. And next topic is discretization process. What is meant by discretization? Discretization process means dividing the given continuum or problem into smaller region called elements. So if you consider any cantilever beam, the cantilever beam is fixed at one end, other end is free. Let us consider L is the length of the cantilever beam and B is the breadth and H is the height. So if you just draw the FE model for this cantilever beam, okay, you will get beam with 1D bar element. After discretization process, okay, you will get 1D bar element. Okay, it consists of this beam with 1D bar element. It consists of two nodes, node 1 and node 2. Node 1 and node 2. See, and after that, the consideration to be taken in the discretization process. So if you want to solve any type of complex problem in the engineering field, take the geometry of the given problem. You have to discretize. Discretization means dividing the whole complex geometry into small number of regions called as elements. Okay, there are so many elements is there, 1 2 3. After dividing, you are obtaining so many elements, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. There are infinite number of elements. Okay, each element consists of two nodes, node 1 and node 2. Okay, look at here. Okay, node, there are so many elements. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14. There are 14 total elements is there. Each element consists of two nodes. Okay, and the general consideration to be taken in the discretization process are, the very first one is type of the elements. Which type of elements is there? Size of the element. What is the size of the element? Third Third consideration is number of elements. How many number of elements after discretization process, and the location of the nodes and node numbering scheme. Type of element. What is the type of element? Okay, there are that in the after discretization process we are obtaining so many number of elements. The elements can be different types depending upon the various factors. In general way, there are so many different types of elements. Okay, after discretization process there are four important type of elements. They are classified as: first one is one dimensional element, second one is two dimensional element, third one is three dimensional elements, and fourth one is axis symmetric elements. What is meant by one dimensional element? These elements are suitable for the analysis of 1D problems. So if you want to analyze 1D problems, example, if you consider any bar or truss or frame structure, if you want to analyze such a type of geometry or such a type of elements are called as one dimensional elements. A bar, example here it is given, a bar, truss and beam elements are considered as 1D elements. These are the example for 1D elements. The simplest line element is also known as linear element, as two nodes. Okay, one dimensional element, it consists of always two nodes, one at each end. See the figure what I mentioned here, the very first in this figure, these are called as one dimensional elements. Example for one dimensional elements are bar, truss. Okay, in this 1D element it consists of two noded element. It is called as linear because it is straight, the element is very straight, it consists of two nodes. And the second figure, it will shows the three noded quadratic element, we call it as three noded quadratic element, and this one is called as four noded cubic, it is called as cubic element. It consists of four nodes, 1 2 3 4, total 4 nodes. And the second type of element is two dimensional elements. These elements are suitable for the two dimensional analysis such as plane stress and plane strain. These are also known as plane elements. Commonly used two dimensional elements are triangular elements and quadrilateral elements. The example for 2D elements are triangular element and quadrilateral elements. The three noded triangular elements are the first 2D element used in the 2D analysis. And these three noded triangular elements are known as CST element. CST is nothing but constant strain triangular element, and it is also called as, this type of elements is also called as linear displacement triangle element because the displacement variation over these elements is linear in nature. Linear is in nature, that is very important. Always the two dimensional elements having linear in nature, the nature of the element is always linear always. And also the triangular elements can have 6 nodes always, it consists of 6 nodes. These 6 noded triangular elements are known as linear strain triangular or quadratic displacement triangular elements because the displacement variation over these elements is parabolic. It is very important, parabolic or non-linear in nature. And the next triangular element, the example for 2D I already told you, triangular elements and quadrilateral elements. Look at the figure. Okay, the triangular elements, the structure will be like this. Okay, in the first figure A, 3 noded linear triangle element, we call it as, this is 6 noded, and it is, this figure shows that 10 noded cubic element, we call it as. Look at here, there are 3 nodes at the corners. In each and every element, right 2 elements, 2 nodes will be there here. Here 2 nodes will be there at the center, one more node is there. Okay, total count in this figure there are 10 nodes, hence it is called as 10 noded cubic element. And the next second example for 2D element is quadrilateral element. Why it is called as quadrilateral element? It consists of 4 nodes. Okay, 4 noded quadrilateral element, it is called as linear in nature, and this figure shows that in this figure it consists of 8 nodes, hence it is called as 8 noded quadrilateral element. And in this figure it consists of 9 nodes, it is called as 9 noded quadrilateral element. And in this figure it consists of total 12 nodes, it is called as 12 noded cubic element. And in this figure it consists of 6 noded These are the it is called as 6 noded cubic element. And the third type is 3-dimensional element. These elements are suitable for 3-dimensional analysis, and the below figure commonly use 3-dimensional elements such as tetrahedral element, prism element, hexahedral element. These are the example for 3D element: tetrahedral element, prism element, hexahedral element. See the figure in this, I am showing what exactly these are called as tetrahedral element. Okay, it consists of the shape of the element is in tetrahedral shape. Okay, it consists of 4 nodes: node 1, 2, 3 and 4. And here one more tetrahedral element geometry is given. It consists of 10 nodes, and one more tetrahedron I drawn here. It consists of 20 nodes. Next, prism elements, example for 3D element. Okay, in the prism element it consists of, this is the geometry of the figure what I written here. These are called the example for 3D element, that is prism elements. It consists of 7 nodes in this figure, and in this 18 nodes, and in this figure 29 nodes. And in this here in the hexahedral element are the example for 3D element. Third type is it consists of 8 nodes, and in this figure it consists of 20 nodes, and in this figure it consists of 32 nodes. And the fourth type is axis symmetric elements. The axis symmetric elements are developed by rotation of planar about an axis located in a plane of element through 360 degree. So if you consider the axis of an element, okay, and the axis symmetry element is developed by rotation of planar, like in triangular or quadrilateral, about an axis located in a plane of an element about 360 degree. These elements are used when the geometry of the loading of the problem are axis symmetric, such as analysis of shaft, cylindrical storage tanks, etc. The figure what I written here, that these are the example for axis symmetric elements. Next, the size of an element is very important. The size of an element, next topic is the size of an element. The size of an element chosen in the finite element model plays a vital role in the finite element analysis, because the size of the elements influences the convergence of the solution. Therefore, has to be chosen with a lot of care. If the size of the element is fine or small, the final solution is expected to be more accurate, but at the same time we have to remember that use of fine mesh will also mean more computational time. Means if you consider a rectangular plate with hole, after discretization process, that is very first discretize it. So after discretization process, the size of we are obtaining so many number of elements, the size of the elements is very fine, small. The final solution, if you keep on dividing the given whole geometry into small number of regions, the accuracy of the solution what you are obtaining is accurate. Okay, and we will get finally we will get exact solution by after dividing the complex geometry into smaller regions. See in this figure, look at here, a plate with a hole. Okay, so after discretization process, okay, after discretization of this rectangular plate with hole, when it is subjected to loading, and this rectangular plate with hole, when it is subjected to loading, see first the step is first discretize this rectangular plate with hole. So after discretization process, we are obtaining small number of elements. If the size of the element is constant, or if the size of the element is uniform, the accuracy of the solution is obtained is high. And if the element size is not fine, the accuracy of the solution is obtained is very it is not good, it is not more approximate or not accuracy of the solution is obtaining is not accurate. Okay, that is very important. The size of the element is very important. while solving the engineering problem. And the next topic is the number of elements. The selection of the number of elements in the finite element model is related to the size of element, the number of degrees of freedom involved, and more importantly accuracy required. Although an increase in the number of elements generally yields more accurate results for given problem. See, if after discretization process, okay, if you consider any type of complex geometry of the problem after discretization process, say if after discretization process if you keep on increasing the number of elements, generally it will yields more accurate results for the given problem, but there will be certain number of elements beyond which the accuracy cannot be improved by any significant amount, and it can be explained in the below figure. See, look at here in this graph. See, look at here. Say after discretization process, we can plot the accuracy versus the number of significant improvement behind n naught. See, look at here. If you keep on dividing the whole geometry into smaller region, if you keep on increasing the number of elements at certain number of elements numbers at n naught, okay, if it is reaches beyond that, the solution obtained is accurate. The accuracy of the solution is obtained is uniform. If you go beyond this point also, the accuracy of the solution is same. Okay, this is the effect of the number of elements. Look at here, the accuracy what we are obtaining at, if you go beyond at this point, if you reaches the if you keep on dividing the into small number of elements, keep on increasing the number of elements, if you go beyond that point, the accuracy of the solution is already reached. You need not to again you don't need not to do any type of discretization process after reaching this point. That is very important. And next one is location of nodes. How exactly we are going to locate the nodes in the finite element method? Node is a point where the properties are determined for an element. Therefore, the location of node is very important. If the body has no discontinuity, then the body can be divided into equal number of elements, and hence the spacing of the nodes can be uniform. So look at here. See, it is a point load on the beam. Okay, the point load, in the point load on the beam, when it is subjected to point load, if you consider a beam with point load, the point load is acting at the end of the beam. Okay, wherever the load is acting, okay, there will be one node will be there. You can consider as a one node. So in this, look at here, in this is uniformly varying load. In this, so it consists of, in this type of beam, okay, it consists of 3 nodes. There is discontinuity in the loading, but here there is a uniformity in the loading. And change in the geometry of the discontinuity in the geometry, and discontinuity in the material properties. See, the next topic in the first module, that is introduction to finite element, the concept of total potential energy. The total potential energy of an elastic body, it is nothing but it is defined as the sum of strain energy due to the internal stresses produced and the work potential due to the external force. Therefore, total potential energy is equal to, it is a sum of strain energy according to the definition of potential energy, and this total potential energy is denoted by pi. The total potential energy is equal to, it is already I told you according to the definition, it is a sum of strain energy plus work potential. Therefore, potential energy functional, it can be represented by pi is equal to strain energy plus work potential. And in the first model, the very important derivation is the potential energy functional for 3-dimensional body. Consider a 3-dimensional elastic body of a volume V subjected to body force, surface force and a point load. Let U, V and W be the displacement components in x, y, z direction respectively. From equation we have the potential energy functional is equal to, according to the definition, it is a sum of strain energy plus work potential. The strain energy of a body is given by the area under the curve. See, look at here. If you plot stress strain diagram as shown in the figure, the strain energy of a body is given by. So if you draw stress strain diagram, okay, at proportional point, if you draw one perpendicular line to the strain axis, if you just add this portion, the area under this curve, okay, it is always, we can represent it as strain energy of a body, and the strain energy is given by, strain energy is equal to of sigma t into epsilon into V is very important. Sigma t epsilon into volume. Strain energy is nothing but strain energy is given by, strain energy is equal to of into stress into strain into volume. You can call it as equation number 2. For small element of volume dV within an element, if you consider a small element in whole of the body, in whole geometry of the body, the strain energy of the small element is given by, strain energy is equal to of into sigma into epsilon into dV. For the entire body, if you consider if you want to calculate the strain energy for the entire body, the strain energy is equal to of into integration, because we are considering for the entire volume of the body. Therefore, strain energy, total strain energy is equal to of into integration of this equation, that is sigma transpose epsilon into dV, because we are considering for the entire body the strain energy, for we to calculate the strain energy of the body. Next, where sigma t is, okay, is the stress matrix for 3D elastic body, okay, sigma x, sigma y, sigma z, sigma xy, sigma yz, sigma zx. You can call it as equation number 3. Next, work potential. The work potential due to external forces, okay, if you consider 3D elastic body, there are 3 types of forces are acting on the elastic body. First one is called as body force. Second one is, it can be represented by F. Second one is surface force or traction force. It can be represented by capital T. And the point load is capital P, is given by the work potential due to body force. If you consider for small element, work potential due to body force is given by Fx into U plus Fy into V plus Fz into W into dV. For the entire body, work potential, the definition of work potential is force into displacement. Okay, if you consider a small element on the 3D elastic body, the work potential on a small element is given by force into displacement in x direction, Fx into y in y direction. The body force in y direction is Fy suffix y into V plus Fz in the z direction, z axis, Fz into W and into dV, total volume. And if you, for the entire body, the work potential due to the entire body, this is for small element. So if you want to calculate the for the entire body, work potential is equal to minus, because work is done on the system. Work is done on the system. Because of that reason, I will take it as minus sign always. Therefore, if you consider for the entire body, the work potential is given by equal to minus integration from V Fx into U plus Fy into V plus Fz into W into dV. Therefore, work potential due to body force for the entire body is equal to minus integration from V U transpose F into dV, where U transpose is U V W and F is force vector and this is the displacement vector for body work potential due to body force, and F is the body force that is in x, y and z direction. And the second type of force is called as traction or surface force. The work potential due to traction force, for if you consider a small element in the 3D elastic body, the work potential is on the system minus sign. Okay, the work potential due to, because the tractions are the forces which are acting on the 3D elastic body in xyz direction is Tx, Ty and Tz, and the displacements corresponding to xyz due to the traction force is U, V and W. And if you considering for surface force, therefore work potential due to small element work potential is equal to minus Tx into U plus Ty into V plus Tz into W into ds. So if you consider for entire body, the work potential due to traction or surface force is given by minus integration V into Tx U plus Ty V plus T2 W into ds. Therefore work potential is equal to, I can written as this Tx U, Ty V and Tz W is equal to minus integration from V to Ut into T into ds, where T is traction force vector due to surface force is equal to Tx, Ty, Tz transpose. Next, third type of loads are called as point loads. The work potential due to point load is given by work potential is equal to minus Pxu plus Py into V, Pz into W. I can written as this equation as minus U into T into P. If there are I number of point loads, then work potential is equal to summation of Ui into Pi. The total work potential due to external force, the total, finally after calculating the work potential for all the three types of problems, you have to add it. We will obtain total work potential due to external forces is given by the work potential is equal to the work potential due to body force plus the work potential due to traction force plus work potential due to point load is given by minus integration from V. The work potential due to body force is given by Ut F into dV, what we already arrived here previously, that the work potential due to body force is given, I already derived here. Work potential is equal to minus integration V U of T, U transpose F into dV. Here write it is same equation here, plus the body force due to traction, work potential due to traction force here I already arrived, it is minus U of T, U transpose F into dV, and sorry, minus S Ut into T into ds. And the next third type of load is point load. The work potential due to point load already arrived, the total minus Ut into P, that is total number of point loads is infinite. Okay, you can write it here. Then substitute all the values of equation 2.30, 2.34 into equation number 2.28. We will get total what is the potential energy function of 3D elastic body is given by pi is equal to half into summation of sigma t into epsilon into dV in this equation. Finally, the work potential, the strain energy is equal to strain energy according to what already I take the definition in the beginning of this derivation. Strain energy is equal to the definition of strain energy is potential energy is sum of strain energy plus work potential. Strain energy is half into summation integration V sigma transpose epsilon into dV minus work potential, what I already arrived here in equation number 2.3, and this equation is called as the work potential energy function for 3D elastic body, expression for the potential energy functional for 3D elastic body. This is the final expression.